What's up, guys? Out here with another video. Today we're going to be focusing on a topic of a video that I actually saw. I think maybe it was about a week ago, and it was about this teacher being fired from his job because of calling a transgender girl. I guess she identifies as a guy, and he called her a boy somehow. But anyway, I'm just going to go ahead. We're going to get into the video, and we're just going to talk about it afterwards. So let's just go ahead and get right into it.
A UK maths teacher has been suspended from work and could lose his job after referring to a transgender student as a girl when they identify as being a boy.
Now, this is what's going on in the UK. And, here in America as well, we have a lot of people who are biologically one thing, but they self-identify as something else. And this is what this whole controversy is over. So let's continue to watch.
That's despite having apologised, saying it was an accident. Well, we can cross live now to the teacher in question now, Joshua Sutcliffe. Joshua, you're very welcome to the programme. Thanks for taking the time to speak to us. First of all, can you talk us through just what happened during that particular class?
The particular class, I welcomed all the students in normally, and as you'd expect. The student in question came in, did very well, and then I said, "Well done, girls, you started really well," and I was met with a fierce rebuttal, and I sincerely apologised. I then found out 6 weeks later that I was going to be under investigation for a misgendering within the community.
Now, it's mind-boggling that we are actually in this time as Christians. We're living in this time, and it's like I would have never thought growing up that this would be an issue, to where if you called someone a girl or you misgendered someone, then your job can be on the line. This is just mind-boggling.
Initially for 1 day, that transpired to be 2 days, and then 3 days, and then it's now been 6 days where I've been sat in an office, not being able to teach my maths lessons.
So that is the reason they're saying you're suspended, misgendering?
Misgendering was the allegation at hand, yes.
Now, how much sense does this make? You have a teacher who has been suspended. He's not teaching his class. Instead of you worrying about the education of the students, you're focused on him misgendering one student. And that's enough to suspend his teacher because he misgendered a student? So it's not an educational issue. It's not something that he did to hinder someone's education. He just simply made the mistake of calling someone who is biologically born as a girl, who identifies as a guy, but he called her what she biologically is, a girl. But that's enough to get him suspended.
Joshua, I'm just looking at I'm just looking at some of the media reports. There's been so much coverage on this over the last number of days. Some are saying that on a number of occasions previously you called the pupil a girl and avoided using pronouns such as he and him, instead using she or her in reference to the child. How do you respond to that?
I would always try and refer to the student by name. And I don't remember any other of these allegations. I don't remember. That was the formal time that happened, and I said, look, apologies. But those other allegations, that's just not the case.
So would you normally say to other students in the class, you would call them by their name instead of using he or she for other pupils?
Yes, of course I do, because I teach 200 students, but I know them all by name, and I want them to know that I know them and want them to do well.
How do you react to accusations of...
Well, let's stop it right there for a minute. Now, he teaches over 200 students. And for him to remember all of their names, that's quite remarkable. But at the same time, this is a man, this is a human. And there's no way that you can continue to remember all of those names. Not to mention that if a group of kids do good as a whole, then, let's say if you got 15 students, okay, and you want to address those students as a group, then you don't, what are you going to do? You're going to spend 20 minutes calling all of their names? You're going to go down the line calling each one by their name just to say, hey, you guys did a good job. This is the world we're living in now.
Of bullying, as has been suggested in these reports?
I think I've been bullied, really, for who I am within the school, setting up a Bible club, and then it being shut down with an iron fist, really, after mentioning it, having so many people come along to the Bible club and being interested in the Bible, and I feel like I've been, discriminated against.
That's exactly what it is. London is one of the most secularized, God-hating countries in the world. And as we can see, what the real issue is, the heart of the issue is that he set up a Bible club at the school. And people hate that he set up a Bible club at school. And not only that they hate that he set it up, but they had so many people who were interested in the Bible club. That is what the issue is. It has nothing to do with him, misgendering some little girl. They're trying to find a way to get him out, which they have. They found a way to get him out of the school because of his success with the Bible club. And we see that is exactly what the main issue is.
Within the community, and I think that's a trend nationwide, is that Christians aren't able to, live out their faith in a professional setting. Especially in
the UK. And the UK is pretty bad. It's pretty bad. And it's not that people are, that people are against the Bible because they know of something else that is more reliable. It's kind of an indoctrination. So there's a lot of people over there who hate the Bible and they don't even know why. So that's why when he started the Bible club, a lot of people were interested, because you have people who are free thinkers who say, listen, I want to see what this is about. Let me go and see what the Bible says. But living in a place like UK, they want to control your thinking. Everything that you say and do and the way you think is they want to control that. And where's the best place to do it? In the school. So now they've kind of indoctrinated these kids to think a certain way, and now we're seeing this being played out, with this teacher.
There has been, Joshua, so much reaction to this, both supporting you and against you. In terms of other teachers at the school and other parents, have you heard from them? What's been the reaction to you from them?
Well, with regards to the other teachers, I wasn't able to talk to them or allude to them exactly what the allegation was. I did tell some teachers that there was a a dialogue going on between myself and the head teacher of the school. I don't remember the second part of your question. Sorry.
In terms of the parents, because we know that one of the parents of the children who you spoke to brought the allegation against you. Have you heard from other parents?
You won't have to look far at all to find parents that have loved me being their child's maths teacher. And you won't have to look far to find students that love me being their maths teacher, that I'm well respected within the community. I think, yes, they do all know that I'm a Christian, but they also know that I long for them to do well in exams and in tests and to succeed in the classroom. And as I say, you won't have to look far to find a whole community.
And that doesn't matter in a secular world. In a secular world, education doesn't matter. What matters is being able to control the minds and the thoughts of people. And the UK is a prime example. The parent of this child doesn't care about this child's education. The only thing that they care about is that there's a Christian teacher teaching their child.
Community that would be saying that.
So you believe there is a bias because of your Christian faith in the school. What are your expectations then from the upcoming disciplinary hearing, Joshua?
Well, with how things are going at the moment, I'm becoming more and more pessimistic about that outcome. Obviously, I would just like for dignity and respect to be upheld, and for people's convictions to be upheld within a professional setting.
Has this affected your desire to be a teacher in the future?
I love to teach, and I pray that there'll be a school that will be willing to hire me, and they'll see that I do all things excellently.
Now, sorry about that, guys. This is one of those things that pops up, I guess, to update my computer. Sorry about that. But anyway, disciplinary actions. They're going to discipline this guy not based on his performance. And it has nothing to do with him mistreating a child. It's because he called a little girl who identifies as a boy a female. That was his crime. And now he has to go through a hearing. He has to go through some type of hearing because they want to discipline him for doing that. I mean, it's man, the insanity of this world from the far left. And as a matter of fact, the UK, London is a very far left country. Very far left. Now, a lot of people think that the left is in the United States is bad. Oh man, I mean it's worse. It's 10 times worse in the UK, and we see it.
In terms of the way teachers, not just yourself, speak to students, not only in your school or in the UK, did you get any training, any advice on how to do that?
Well, I think there's a movement by Stonewall to get some of this stuff into staff training, but I don't think it's being rigorously tested as something that works. So I think it's something that probably needs to be discussed at the highest level, within Ofsted, within policies, politics, and hopefully this one minor incident brings this to the forefront of people's minds.
Now, did you catch that? Now, he asked, was there any type of training? Basically, what he's saying is that no, there wasn't any type of training, and there needs to be further training. So you're going to punish a guy who did not have the proper training of helping or identifying the difference between a person who identifies as the opposite sex. You see, how can you, and I'm going to touch on this a little bit later, but how can you know what someone self-identifies as? But how do you provide training for that? How do you do that? Well, like I said before, it has nothing to do with the training or his teaching or anything like that. It's the fact that he's a Christian guy and they don't want him in the school.
And perhaps just listening to Joshua is another teacher, somebody else in a different position, in a different profession, in a similar position. What would you say to them if they find themselves perhaps not able to speak the way that they want to speak because of either their faith or something else? Would you say to them that just get on with the job now because of what has happened to you, or stand up for your beliefs even in a professional setting which might raise some opposition?
Well, what we're going to come up against is that we come into a society where if you're offended by anything, you can make a report, and somewhat of a heckler's veto. You can, if someone causes offence, then you're able to report them and so on. So I think it's not going to be going in the right direction. I think I think we can all speak freely within the context of respect and dignity, and I think as long as there's an understanding that we're acting in love and compassion for one another as people, then I think we'll have a stronger society.
Alright, so that is the end of this video. I'll go ahead and stop it. But as you guys can see from this prime example of a form of Christian persecution, here we are, a teacher who is excellent at his job, allegedly, because he's not being reprimanded for doing a bad job. He's being reprimanded for calling a girl who identifies as a boy a girl. That is his crime. But this is my question. You as the Christian, are you prepared for this? Are you prepared for this type of persecution? And I want to say that a lot of us in America, we are not. We're not prepared for this. A lot of us are comfortable right now. And it makes me think, what if Hillary Clinton would have gotten into office? Because I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. Whatever the UK is doing, we're usually not far behind. A lot of the things that's going on now here in America, like, gay marriage and a lot of these leftist ideas, transgenderism and all of this stuff, that stuff started in the UK. And they started to push for that in the UK. And once a lot of that started to get passed in, it kind of filtered over here to the United States. But my point is that we're not really far behind the UK whenever they do something. And I strongly believe that if Hillary Clinton would have got into office, this would have been something that would have been probably in the making right now, to where your freedom of speech is violated. And if you say something offensive to someone, or someone deems anything offensive, you can be prosecuted for it. For instance, I have a brother. He is an evangelist. Okay, he goes to different countries. He lives in India, and he ended up getting India. Ended up putting him out briefly because of him preaching to people, and he ended up going to the UK. And he said something offensive, and they threw him in jail. And when they threw him in jail, now he has to go back to court. He has to go back to court for this hearing. And they're trying to figure out if he's going to pay a fine and all of that stuff. So I think he has a hearing that's coming up. Not that, within the near future, basically. But again, my question is, are you guys ready for that? Now, a lot of people are basically saying this is why, or they want to look into homeschooling. Okay, that's one of the reasons why I decided, or my wife and I, we decided to homeschool. We decided that we would become a single family income, which is mine. My wife would stay home and homeschool the kids. That's why you guys see all of the stuff, like the books and stuff in the back. That's because we homeschool our kids. And we've been doing it for about 3 years. And I mean, it's great. It's been great. Because we're trying to avoid all of the rhetoric that goes on in these schools. How a lot of these schools are brainwashing a lot of these children. And you have to think about it. Your kids go to school all day. And they're only home with you for a couple of hours a day if you're working parents. Your child sees your teacher more than they see you. So who do you think that child is going to follow? You or that teacher? They're going to follow that teacher. And the teacher is going to do whatever the government tells them to do. So if the government tells the teacher to teach a certain way, then the teacher is going to teach that to the child. And then that child's going to come home. And if you teach anything different from what they've been taught, then that child is going to rebel against you. This is why a lot of children, once they get to a certain age, it's kind of like that middle school age. People always say that kids just seem to rebel. They're kind of like in that rebellious stage. And I was there myself. Because I admired my teachers more than I admired my parents. Because I was with my teachers, about 6 to 8 hours a day. And with my mom and dad, maybe like 4. But again, are you guys ready for this type of persecution? Now, are you ready for the day when they get ready to outlaw homeschooling? Because they're going to ban it. They are. Germany has banned homeschooling. You're not allowed to homeschool your children in Germany. Because if you do, they'll lock you in jail. Your children have to go to school in Germany. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know what it is in the UK, but I'm pretty sure the UK is probably close to that. They'll probably end up banning homeschooling as well. As a matter of fact, Barack Obama, I'll probably say at the end to the beginning of his second term, I'll probably say the end of his first term to his second term, there were talks about banning homeschool or having homeschoolers lose their accreditation. It was in the talks. If you do your research, you'll find it out. And that's the road that we were actually going down. But now with this presidency, Donald Trump, that has kind of been pushed back. But what's going to happen when we have another Democrat that gets in office? Or somebody who's on the extreme left? It might not even be a Democrat. It might be a Republican. It might be a leftist Republican. And I just want to give you guys something to think about. Are you willing to go to jail, go to prison, to homeschool your children and keep the government and to keep Satan from indoctrinating your children? Are you ready to go to school? Are you ready to go to jail for that? Keep your kids out of school. Because there's some of these schools that's in America that are giving your children these, I guess it's like a personality test. And they're having your children, they're asking your children like a series of questions. Like, what do they identify as? Christian or Muslim or whatever. Do they think that gay marriage is wrong and all of this stuff here? And I remember seeing a report on that. And a lot of these schools, some of these schools are doing that. So therefore, let's say if you have a child who says, I believe that marriage is between a man and a woman, and they write that down, they can go after the parents. So it's one of those situations to where these things are starting to take place in our society. And it's happening right up under our noses. That's why I try not to get distracted with all of the Black Lives Matter stuff and all of this other stuff that's going on. Because eventually these things are going to start taking place. Like this guy who was being prosecuted this teacher who's being prosecuted. But let's say at your job, if you don't agree with what the culture is doing, are you ready to lose your job? Will you conform to the system? Just like I was stating earlier. Let's say if you want to homeschool your children, but they ban homeschooling. Will you go to jail? And some of you will say, yeah, I'll go to jail. I'll do it. But really, will you go to jail and risk the state taking your children by force? It's just kind of like that gray area. Like, what do you do? So anyway, guys, I just wanted to just touch on this video. And I really wanted to ask this really tough question, because when I see stuff like this, it really concerns me. And it doesn't concern me as in me thinking about myself and what I do, but I think about a lot of you guys out there. And I think about the body of Christ. And I want to bring stuff like this to the forefront so we can prepare ourselves. So when things like this start to take place, we can continue to come together as the body and figure out what we need to do and how we can stay within the realm of God, within the Word of God. But as always, guys, like, rate, share, comment, subscribe, and you guys have a blessed day.
This family doesn't want us to use their names or even say where they live. They are something like educational outlaws. The children themselves set goals each week for what they want to learn, in math, history, and German, for instance. The mother started teaching at home after deciding regular public school wasn't teaching her kids quickly enough, or teaching them what learning itself was really about.
They understand more and more that all of life is about learning, and not just the 5 hours of school they have to sit through. And they realize that learning can be fun, and that it is about realizing your own potential. You can't put a timeline on it. You are so engaged that you just want to know more.
Unlike other European countries, in Germany, homeschooling is illegal. All children must attend either public or private school unless physically or psychologically unable to. It's a law that was challenged before the Constitutional Court a decade ago, but the court ruled against the defenders of homeschooling, saying that going to a regular school was critical to making sure that children were well integrated into society. The oldest child still has some of her old friends from when she went to regular public school. They accept what she is doing as something different, but she says that doesn't make her feel like a social outcast.
At first, a lot of them wouldn't believe that I'm being homeschooled. Then they think it's great, and that they would like to learn at home too. But some of them also say they would miss their classmates.
Homeschoolers in Germany face fines, jail time, and even the forcible removal of children from their homes. But this family found an agreement with authorities because they live abroad for part of the year. Across the street is one of the town schools, one of the many the mother says is failing her children. All she's doing, she says, is letting them develop their potential, personality, even their own notion of beauty. Nick Spicer, Al Jazeera.
Residents of the Wunderlich family, shown here at a homeschooling conference last year. The raid near Darmstadt last week took all 4 of the family's children into state custody. The only legal grounds were that the parents, Dirk and Petra Wunderlich, continued to homeschool their children. There were no other allegations of abuse or neglect. A German family court judge also authorized the police to use force against the Wunderlich children if they resisted. Behind the raid was the notorious Jugendamt, or youth office. Many of the German parents that have run afoul of the Jugendamt have had their lives ruined. They've been taken in and out of court, been fined thousands of euros, some have been thrown in jail, and some have lost their children. A few years ago, the Wunderlichs fled Germany to avoid having their children taken, but the need for employment forced them to return. In an interview in Berlin last year, Dirk Wunderlich said he was prepared to go to jail rather than send his children to school.
But I'm not afraid of this. It's only sad for my family, but I go laughing. You can do what you want. My children don't go to school.
The founder of the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, Michael Ferris, called the abduction of the Wunderlich children an outrageous act of a rogue nation. And it demonstrates why the asylum case of another German homeschool family, the Romaikas, is so important. The Romaikas fled German persecution of homeschoolers and were granted asylum by an immigration judge. The Obama administration wants the Romaikas sent back to Germany, where they could face the same fate as the Wunderlichs. Witnesses said when Petra Wunderlich tried to give her daughter a kiss and hug goodbye, one of the police officers pushed her away and said it's too late for that. The children were taken to unknown locations. Officials told the parents they would not be seeing their children anytime soon. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
A battle is brewing between a Christian family and the White House. They could be deported, all because a mom and a dad want to homeschool their children. Fox News Radio's Todd Starnes has been following the story for us, and he joins us now with the new developments. Todd, what's going on here?
Well, good morning, Heather. The Romiki family fled Germany in 2008. Mom, dad, their 6 children, all seeking political asylum. Now, the Romikis are evangelical Christians, and the German government threatened to take away their children and throw them in jail just because they refused to stop homeschooling. The German state constitution requires children to attend public school, and parents who don't comply face severe punishment. So in 2008, with the help of the American-based Homeschool Legal Defense Association, the Romkis applied for political asylum. An immigration judge granted the family refuge, and they settled into a new life, purchasing a small Tennessee farm in the shadows of the Great Smoky Mountains. But the Obama administration stepped in and objected to political asylum. The Justice Department says no one has a right to homeschool anywhere, and they do not believe the German government has violated the family's human rights. And Homeland Security demanded the Christian family be deported. Now, the Homeschool Legal Defense Association calls the administration's position an utter repudiation of parental and religious liberty. So let's put this in perspective. President Obama is granting amnesty to millions of people who came here illegally, and just last week the administration released thousands of illegals who had committed crimes. But they want to deport a Christian family just because they want to homeschool. Now, the Romiki family's hopes and dreams now rest with the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, and there's no word on when they might hand down a ruling. Heather?
All right, Todd Starnes, thank you for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.